Hello yogis, I'm Desiree Joy Evelo, and today I'm leading you through a workshop on yoga anatomy, safe and strong anatomy through the lens of Ahimsa. So Ahimsa is the first of the yamas, or ethical guidelines as laid out in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. The word Ahimsa comes from the Sanskrit ah, meaning not, and himsa, meaning violence or harm. When we put those together, ahimsa means non-harming, non-violence, or compassion. In yoga, we often think of ahimsa as kindness towards others, but it begins with how we treat ourselves, especially on the mat. On the mat, ahimsa means respecting our body's limits, practicing safely, and moving with awareness instead of force. Today, we'll explore anatomy as a pathway to ahimsa. When we understand how our body works, we can move it in ways that keep us safe and strong. Before we even move, let's connect to the breath.
Our diaphragm is the main breathing muscle. On the inhale, the diaphragm contracts and moves downward, creating more space in the chest cavity. On the exhale, it relaxes and moves upward, pushing air out. Our intercostal muscles located between the ribs expand and contract the rib cage with every breath.
So when we practice breathing, or our yoga pranayama techniques, what's actually happening in the body, we're drawing in oxygen into our lungs. From the lungs, it enters the bloodstream and goes directly to our muscles. That oxygen fuels them. Whenever we exhale, the waste product of carbon dioxide leaves the body. Proper breathing not only brings more oxygen to your muscles, to your blood and brain, but it also helps control our prana, our vital life energy. So we've just covered the diagrams of what's actually going on an anatomical basis when we breathe in and out. So let's sit down and practice some breathing together. We'll come to our Ujjayi, or victorious breath, often referred to as ocean breath. Let's sit up nice and tall in any seated position that works for us. You can even come to your chair. We're relaxing our shoulders back and down, finding a comfortable position. Now, we're gonna inhale and exhale through our noses. And on our exhale, the glottis at the base of the throat, we're gonna constrict that slightly. And you'll notice when you breathe out, you're going to hear that sound. Let's try an inhale and an exhale together. If you're having trouble connecting to that breath, let's imagine that we're trying to fog up a mirror. We can all do it with our mouths open. Let's try it with the lips shut. Now that we know what that breath looks like, let's practice it together. Here we go. So when we practice pranayama, especially techniques like Ujjayi breathing, we're training our muscles of respiration, enhancing our oxygen exchange, improving our circulation, and regulating our nervous system. All of this is anatomy under the lens of Ahimsa, using our breath to nourish, protect, and balance rather than strain. So deep diaphragmatic breathing, like we do in Ujjayi breath, helps our circulatory system. First, it improves the venous return, or the movement of blood back to the heart. It supports your heart by lowering your blood pressure, which is reducing the strain placed on the heart. And more oxygen-rich blood provides more energy for your muscles and your brain. Pranayama techniques also help regulate our nervous system. Deep breathing, like Ujjayi breath, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as rest and digest. Once that parasympathetic nervous system is activated, what actually happens in the body, your stress hormones lower, your muscles relax, and your mind becomes calmer. So remember, yogis, while we're practicing, always continue breathing, pacing your breaths and the movements. We never want to hold our breath to protect our bodies. Yeah, we've all seen it. We've all come into a yoga class, whether we're a teacher or a student, and we've seen that one person roll out their mat like they own the place, and the first thing they do, let's jump into the biggest stretch that we can do under the guise of warming up. Stop right there. That makes me cringe every time I see a student do it. Why? Because we're not properly warmed up. Warming up is so important. Without it, we can injure ourselves. So why is a warm-up so important anyway? You might think it's just something your teacher loves to make you do before every yoga class, but that's not true. It's not just tradition, it's about science and self-care. First, we warm up to lubricate our joints, to warm up our muscles, and to increase our range of motion before we go into deeper poses. So let me break that down a little bit. Our joints, most of the joints in our body are synovial joints.
Synovial joints are the most movable type of joint in the body. They're surrounded by a fibrous capsule, and that capsule is lined by a synovial membrane. The membrane produces synovial fluid, which flows into the joint cavity and lubricates the surfaces of the joint.
And we can think of that synovial fluid like a jar of honey. You see my jar of honey here? It's been sitting out room temperature. It's kind of cold. It's thick. It's not flowing very well at all. But once we warm this honey up, it becomes more liquid and it coats the inner part of our jar, which is like our capsule around the joint, better.
There are 6 types of synovial joints in the body. The pivot joint, located at C1 and C2 vertebrae, the hinge joint and elbows and knees, saddle joint at the base of the thumb, plane joints located in the wrists and ankles, condyloid joint, wrist, fingers, toes, and jaw, and the ball and socket joint in the shoulders and hips.
After we lubricate our joints, we're looking at our muscles. So our muscles have something called plasticity. That's that stretch and contraction. Without plasticity, your muscles wouldn't be able to move. So we typically go to yoga class after we wake up or after we come home from work. And typically, we've been either laying down all night in a single position, or we've been sitting at a desk for a lot of time during the day. Our muscles are cold. They've been stuck in a position. So we need to warm them up to help with that plasticity. You can think like your muscles being a stiff rubber band after that. Imagine you have your rubber band, you're trying to stretch it, and sometimes it just snaps on you when you pull it to its furthest point. When we warm our muscles up gradually, blood flow increases, your oxygen delivery improves, and muscles become more pliable, ready for safe lengthening. Once our muscles are warmed up and our joints are lubricated, we can increase our range of motion. We can explore a safer, fuller range of motion instead of forcing the body into poses that we aren't ready for yet. Now we've learned a little bit more about our anatomy and how it works during our warm-up. Let's put it into practice. Let's start seated. Easy seated position will do, bringing one leg in front of the other, moving out the fleshy bits of our bottom so we feel our sitting bones grounded to the earth. We're sitting up nice and tall, relaxing shoulders back and down. We're going to start being aware of our breath, just observing it to start. Breathing in and out through our noses. Maybe closing our eyes if we feel comfortable doing so. Remember, we're not trying to force our breath here. Noticing what it feels like in our body. Whether our breath is deep or shallow, whether it's long or short. Take account of the sensations that we feel in our body as we breathe. And then, let's change the breath up a little bit. Let's come to some Ujjayi breathing or ocean breath. So closing your eyes if you'd like, we're going to breathe in and out through our noses. When we exhale, let's constrict the glottis at the base of the throat so you can hear your exhales. Let's do that together. Notice when we're taking this breath, we're trying to bring the oxygen all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. So by doing that, let's engage the diaphragm. Deep breath in, diaphragm pushes down, creating space for the lungs to fill up completely. And then exhaling, the diaphragm pushes the air out of the lungs. Let's take a few more rounds together in our Ujjayi breath. So when our ribs expanded, that was our intercostal muscles stretching and our diaphragm moving down. So just by breathing, our body's now warmer and more awake. So let's bring in some movement. We're going to start with our joints. We need to get them lubricated first. Remember our synovial fluid, almost like oiling a squeaky hinge. So we're going to get started with the wrists. We're going to start circling our wrists. Making sure we go both directions. And then to get the wrists and hands ready, let's do some wrist extension and flexion. And then we'll stretch out the hands wide and squeeze them into fists. Do a few rounds of that just to prep the hands. let's come to our neck now. We're going to start just by turning the head side to side. Warming up the muscles of the neck. And then we'll move the head up, lifting the chin slightly, feeling that stretch in the front of the neck, and then exhaling, tucking our chin to our chest. We'll roll through a few rounds of that as we extend and flex the neck. We can also do some lateral movement with the head and neck. So we can lower our ear towards our shoulder, release the opposite arm, feeling a stretch to the side of the neck, making sure we honor our range of motion. We don't want to force it. And then we switch to the opposite side. Maybe we do a few neck circles. We can slowly write O's with the nose. Always making sure that we don't throw our head back to protect our cervical spine. Let's reverse that direction. And then bring our head back to neutral. Let's move to the shoulders now. We're going to slowly rotate the shoulders back. We don't have to make an exaggerated movement, pulling the shoulders all the way up to the ears. Maybe you feel more aware of the circles your elbows are making at your side. Trying to move our shoulders through their range of motion. Let's go forward now. Keeping up with our shoulders, we'll do a few shoulder openers. Let's bring our arms to cactus arms. We're going to open up our chest, and then exhale, forearms come together. Making sure that we breathe as we move. We never want to hold our breath during our yoga practice. Let's bring the arms out. Continuing on with shoulder rotation. We're going to open one palm, turn our head to that side. And continue with flowing side to side with our breath. And we'll let that go. Now we're going to focus on the hips. I'm going to extend my legs out in front of me, and I'm bringing my hands underneath my shoulders for support. We're going to go through some lazy hip circles. So starting with my right leg, I'm going to slide my heel in towards me and then open the hip, extending the leg. Let's do that 4 times in this direction. And then 4 times in the opposite direction. And always remember, what we do to one side of the body, we need to repeat on the other. So let's go to the left leg. So 4 circles in either direction to slowly lubricate the hip joints. And then switching direction. And now finally, let's do some ankle rotation. I'm going to start with my right leg. I'm just going to pull my knee up towards my chest, and let's rotate out the ankle. Doing 4 rotations in one way, 4 rotations the opposite way. And now let's switch to the opposite leg. Now, most of our joints have been lubricated. Let's move on to all fours now, coming to our tabletop position. So you notice I'm spreading my hands nice and wide, almost like starfish. Stacking wrists, elbows, and shoulders, knees directly underneath my hips. I'm pulling my belly in, activating my belly lock or Uddiyana Bandha, pulling in gently to help protect the back and stabilize my core. From here, let's do a few rounds of cat and cow together. So head comes back to neutral as we exhale, pushing ourselves away from the mat, arching our spine, tucking our tailbone, gazing back at the belly button. Inhaling. Let's open the chest, drop the belly, lift the tailbone. We feel those shoulder blades slide back together. And we'll continue this with the breath at our own pace. Here we go. Now while we're doing this, we're moving our back through extension and flexion, and we're lubricating the discs located between each of our vertebrae. Now that we've moved the spine through extension and flexion, let's go through some lateral extension and flexion. So let's look over our shoulder, squeezing in the obliques, directing our gaze back towards our bottoms. We inhale, coming back to center, and then exhale. Go to the opposite side. Look over your shoulder, squeezed in your side waist. Let's take a few more rounds, flowing with our breath. All right, now let's move our spine through a little bit of rotation, doing some barrel rolls. So imagine moving the back like a jump rope. The belly drops. We're going to bring that spine up and around. Let's switch directions. And then we'll turn back to neutral. Let's walk our hands back, join each other in hero pose. Now let's flow in to a low lunge. We're going to bring hands to our hips. Let's lift up to our knees, stepping forward with our left foot. Maybe while we're here, let's inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, lower them down. We can even hinge forward, bringing our hands to blocks or to our mat, tap our toe, and lift the knee. We can shift our weight forward and back. Our low lunge opens the hip flexors. Our blood flows and our oxygen travels to the large muscles in the body. Let's drop out of that. And we'll work on the opposite side. So stepping forward with our right foot, coming to that low lunge, let's add some arms. Inhaling up, exhaling down. And then exhaling, hinging forward, hands come to the blocks or to the mat, tucking our toe, lifting our knee, and we can shift our weight forward and back on the balls of our feet. From here, let's step up to the top of our mat, coming into a forward fold. As we inhale, let's bend the knees, circle sweep up. We're going to move through some half sun salutations now in order to get the body really warmed up. We're connecting breath and movement here. Starting in mountain pose, let's inhale, arms coming up. Exhale, hinge forward at the hips, swan dive the hands. Hands can come down to our blocks or to the mat. Inhale, we halfway lift. Nice neutral spine. Exhale to release. Inhale, bend the knees. Circle sweep coming all the way back to our extended mountain. Now let's do that a little bit faster in order to build heat in the body. Here we go. Let's bring it all the way back up. Bringing our hands to heart center. Now, let's go through a dynamic chair flow. Chair warms the largest muscles in your body, your quads and your glutes, which use the most oxygen. Starting in our mountain pose or Tadasana, feet hip distance width apart, we're inhaling, extending arms upwards. As we exhale, we bend the knees, sink back into our hips, evenly distributing weight across our feet, checking to see if toes are visible in front of the knees. And inhale, bring it up. Now let's flow through this. Here we go. With the breath. And we bring the arms down. Let's come back to our mountain pose. Now, observe how you're feeling. The heart is starting to beat a little faster. The muscles are feeling warmer in our body, and we feel more energized. So we're ready to safely practice the rest of our yoga class. Your joints are now lubricated, your muscles are warm, your range of motion has expanded, and your breath is bringing more oxygen than ever into your muscles and brain. You're prepared with Ahimsa. Now remember, Ahimsa is more than avoiding injury. It's choosing kindness in every part of our practice and our day. Thanks for watching today. Please like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with all of my channel's content. Have a great day.